Welcome to Veronica Live, and we are here with a brand new congressional candidate for CD2, which is, she'll have to tell us what the area encompasses, but we are here with Rhonda Woodward. She has just announced that she's running to replace Congressman Neil Dunn. Welcome, Rhonda, to Veronica Live.
Hi, good morning. Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So tell us, Rhonda, I've gotten to know you the last couple weeks, and I do want to say last night we went together to the Military Affairs Committee Thunderbird Air Show event, and we got to meet all of the participants for this week's Gulf Coast Salute, and that was just a pleasure getting to be around you and hang out with all of our military. So I did want to mention that, but tell people about your background, what you've been doing the last few years and your experience.
Sure. So, yes, it was truly a great event last night and a privilege to meet all the elite fighter pilots and community support there. But what I have been doing for the last 5 years, I have opened a construction business. So I've been an owner-operator of that. And prior to that, for over 2 decades, I was a teacher and then a school principal here in Bay County.
So you've been busy, and I wanted to know what made you decide, you're a successful business owner now. Why do you want to run to represent CD2 up in the swamp, I call it, and it is really swampy up there. Those alligators really bite, Rhonda.
I agree. So basically, I'm just at a point in my life where I have the flexibility to be able to do it, but mostly because I'm just fed up with what's going on right now. I feel like I'm being taxed without representation. Our voice that's supposed to be representing us here in District 2, where I've been a resident since 1976, has voted with the Democrats more times than not. And I'm just about to boil over. My blood pressure can't take it. I'm just like, somebody has to do something. And finally, I was like, nobody's doing it. Okay, I'm going to jump in. This is meant to be, and I'm going to do anything I can to try and help, because I have family here. I have children here and grandchildren here, and I feel like we're at a precipice that if we don't change what's going on in our country right now, it's going to be too late.
Well,
so
I feel that way. And, John and I've been on air almost 4 years now talking to people, and the border issue to me is completely out of control, Rhonda. I mean, Trump recently said a few weeks ago that he thought there's 15 million illegals, and I'm fine with people here on worker visas because we need workers, but I don't need people that could be out of a prison from Venezuela, killing a college girl. So tell me your thoughts on the border, because I think right now people don't realize that this is truly our number one issue for America.
It's number one in my book. I feel like this Democratic administration, that it's complete treason. In the beginning stages, I thought, well, how can they be so dumb? How can they make these mistakes? And then I thought, well, they're not even trying. They're not making mistakes. This is their plan. They're doing this intentionally, and it's sickening. They released some numbers the other day where almost 170,000 migrants that they have tracked, that the Biden administration has flown on 3 flights to Florida. If that's not a plan, I don't know what is a plan. And it makes me sick. They're unvetted. I have to stand in line in customs just to come back from an island cruise. But these guys, they put them on a plane with you. You don't know if they're pedophiles, mentally ill, terrorists. We don't know who these people are, and there's no tracking them. So it has to stop. And the only way to stop it, in my opinion, is to grab those purse strings and wrap them around the neck of those that are in charge of that budget. It's got to be done. I mean, we're bleeding out as Americans. We cannot just keep pumping out money that we don't have. And if we don't take care of us first, there's not going to be anything left to take care of. But don't get me started, because I get real passionate about that.
Well, we need you. That's why we want to send you up to D.C. But
that's what we need, is passionate people, yes. Exactly.
Because I feel like people go up there and it's a cocktail party, and along with the border is the fentanyl. Over 100,000 people die a year from this silly drug because they think they're popping an oxy, and then they end up dying because they're dumb to begin with. But, you think that would wake people up, Rhonda, the fentanyl coming through.
I think the propaganda machine has kept it all under wraps so well that the mainstream people in this world just don't even pay attention. You know, it's like everybody's in survival mode. They keep their head down. They do what they're supposed to be doing, and they don't even know until it comes to their door. I can speak from experience because right here in my neighborhood, one of my neighbors that's been a neighbor since 1977, his son that I used to take to school with my son actually died of a fentanyl overdose. And I have seen what it does to, it doesn't just take out that person, it takes out that whole entire family.
Yeah.
Because first you battle the drug addiction, then you battle the grief and the death and the what if. And it's horrible. And it's not just fentanyl, it's cocaine, it's heroin, it's all these things. And it's like an evil, treacherous plan just to take down America, if you ask me. They're trying to implode us from the inside out without people even noticing that they've brought in drugs, they've brought in terrorists, they're bringing in Chinese nationals, you know.
Yeah,
it's ridiculous.
Well,
it's on
and
every
the terrorists, that's the other thing. You know, we all know where we were on 9/11, and I feel like there's all these gotaways. They are catching some of the terrorists, but I don't think they care. So I'm just waiting, you know, and my children live in New York City, so I'm waiting for something awful to happen. I really feel like something awful is going to happen with this open border.
I mean, I absolutely agree. And even as lame as some of these agencies are in D.C. right now, they're saying this is the most credible threats that we have ever had. I think it's just a matter of time before we see something that's a coordinated and planned attack, and it's going to be from the inside out. And if we don't step up, I mean, right now we have spent, just on this last budget over for Ukraine, spent enough money to fund the Marine Corps for a year. Our interest rate that we accrue on our national debt every single day is enough to fund the whole DOD for a year. It's just got to stop. If we don't stop, there's nothing left.
Yeah, that's so true.
So Rhonda, what do you make of the, you know, we pretty much live in a post-constitutional republic, is the closest thing I can figure out anymore. But, you know, you have folks like Marjorie Taylor Greene, you know, of course, Matt Gaetz, who we're a fan of him, and they seem to be trying to steer this massive government back to some kind of form of constitutional republic. Where are you on trying to get that ship of state change course?
I'm on their team, and I think we need more people on that team. And if we can elect some actual patriot fighters that aren't afraid, that can go up there and have a voice, and if we can get a big enough group of us together, that we can make an impact. It's hard to make an impact as one person, but we have to elect fighters, and I want to be one of those in that group and push for us to be back to a constitutional republic, because as it is, we're on a slippery slope and it's going quickly downhill, and somebody's got to put a stop in there. And I think it's now or never, and we have to do it.
Rhonda, I know when we were talking about the interview, I asked you, because you've been in the school system and you've seen when these illegals come to the school, because you've been a principal. So I wanted you to talk about that, because, I mean, you told me that they don't have any vaccinations. There's no paperwork. We don't know who these people are. And now we're putting them, you know, full-fledged into our school systems. And as an educator and a principal, you saw it up close. So tell us about that experience. Yes.
I mean, that is very passionate and close to my heart, because I've always been a fighter for children. I feel like they don't have a voice a lot of times, and they don't get the representation. So as a school principal, I saw firsthand, if I want to go register my child, my 5-year-old, to enter this school system, I have to have all the right paperwork. I have to have birth certificate. I have to have vaccinations, etc. But if you bring in a student that's homeless or that is a refugee like that, they will take them, no birth certificate, no paperwork, no vaccines, nothing. And you start them that day. At the very latest, you start them the next day. I mean, it's a very taxing situation on schools. I saw the school that I was at go from probably less than 20 ESOL students, would say they speak other than English, to over 100 now. And it's very taxing, because it's not just, it's not like you can just have a Spanish interpreter. You got Spanish, Chinese, Portuguese, all different languages. and it's very difficult to move a whole school forward when you can't speak the language with these students, and you don't know what they've been exposed to. But moreover, you don't know if these children have been just grabbed off of the border and are being trafficked for whatever. It's gross.
How do you fit them in with because you don't really know what their educational background is. I mean, how do you know where to fit them at? I mean, some of them, do they belong, even though they may be a teenager, they probably have an elementary level education, or if that is that the typical profile?
That happens quite often, and what I've seen through the years, I mean, I've seen students that are 14 that are on a six-year-old level, but you have to put them closest to their social development stage or within a year or so of it, so that they're not too stymied backwards, and then you try and fill in the gap with all these different incentives to help them learn and to catch up. But it's truly taxing, because you already have this with I've always worked in Title IX or Title I schools that are low socioeconomic. So we already had the struggling students. And then when you bring in Syrian refugees and Chinese speakers, and then all these different immigrants, and you put them all in this school where you're already struggling and your resources are already running thin, it is truly a battle to bring everybody up to speed. So you just have to individualize it and try and make improvements for each one. But kids are amazing. It's truly amazing to see how they can grow and learn, but it is not easy.
Very true. I wanted to ask you, because this week, the insanity at these college campuses, Rhonda, it was out of control. Oh, I thought I was watching like some Hollywood movie, because when I went to bed, I don't even know what night it was this week, and New York was like with the cherry picker and, hundreds of their tactical units going through the second story window of a building in Columbia, because you've got green-haired people that are, I think, paid protesters were finding. I saw something on X saying that a paid protester can make $7,500. I'm like, okay, they're making all this money. Yeah. I mean, it's just literally, and so many of them are not even students from these institutions, and ... Several, now there's some that are going on a hunger strike, I think at Princeton. They've got demands. I'm like, I'm over the silliness. And the White House, it's like crickets. It's literally like crickets. And I think we need leadership to come out of D.C. And as a congresswoman, I would hope you'd be, leading that way with this horrific initiative that we're seeing. I think they're BLM and Antifa people too that are pretending to be college students. So I just wanted your thoughts on the madness this week.
Yeah, I totally agree. It is madness, but a shout out to Florida, because, over at UF and FSU, they shut that down with a quickness. They were like, nope, not happening here. We're not a daycare, not doing it. And I really think that people, these other states need to take that into consideration. When you give these entitled people free reign and you let people who aren't even students come in and run your campus to the extent that now that they have run them off, eventually, after it got so bad there was like no other alternative, they are bringing in bulldozers to clean up the campus. That tells you how filthy this was. Yeah. And just how extensive. And then when you see some of this rhetoric that they left behind, the anti-Semitism is just gross. It's terrible. It's all the way back. We need our country to keep moving forward. We don't need this hatred. We don't need this division. This was supposed to be an administration that was going to unite people, and they have done the dead opposite. And I find out that seems to be their theme. Whatever they're accusing the other side of, they're actually doing it all the time. And it's just ridiculous. And I think that all of that needs to stop. We need to invoke the, Title VI and take their funding if they're allowing this to continue. And we just need this to stop. We need unity. We need sanity. If these people here on student visas, they can go. Let them go back to where they came from and celebrate somewhere else if America's not good.
Well,
I'm over it.
I joked on X. Wait, John. I joked on X because, the UNC frat boys saved the flag from touching the ground, and one of them was on Laura Ingraham. So I messaged him. So he said he'd come on my show. But I wish I had 20 daughters to go date all these wonderful American patriotic frat boys that love America.
And sadly, I think there's lots of them. I said, sadly, I think there's a lot of them out there, but they don't get any traction on the media because they just want to bring this doom, gloom, and division. And it also is very irritating that, I mean, I believe there are a lot of patriots, a lot of Christians that believe and that support Israel, but you don't see that out in the open. I think we have to stand up and we have to be seen and we have to make noise. And that's why I'm very thankful for shows like yours that bring out the truth as we know it.
So Rhonda, I'm old enough to remember the 60s and all the stuff that went on there with the students, against the war and all that kind of stuff. And those same radicals, those same protesters and stuff, they're the ones that are now in charge of our institutions. So I think a lot of what we're seeing has been institutionalized. And how do you, and some of it, they're even talking about it moving into the public school system, into the K-12 region now, same type things, because you've got the teachers that have been educated in that radicalized university system, with all these people in there from the 60s. Now that's being pushed into the K-12 realm of schools. As an educator, do you see that happening? And is there any way to counter that, other than time, or are we just doomed in that respect?
That's a good question, John. Thank you. I believe that they do try to push that agenda, and in liberal areas where things like that happen, that it probably is a constant pushback by parents. But I think parent voices have to be heard. Parents have to be advocates for their children. And I'm just glad that we live in the free state of Florida, because I have not seen that as a public school servant for over 20 years here. The worst thing I had to ever deal with was maybe one teacher that didn't have her class stand up. She let them choose whether to stand up to do the Pledge of Allegiance to the flag every morning, because we all did it every day. And that was the extent of that. I didn't see any of the CRT curriculum. I got out in 2019. So I think it's a lot of fad, just junk, and that parents have to stand up and be a voice and be heard and just be advocates, because I don't want that to come here. And also, I think that we need to abolish the DOE. That is an overextension of the feds pushing into what's supposed to be state governed. And I think that it's a waste of money, and we need to take that back. And the parents, the local parents in the state, need to make those decisions for their students.
And what did you actually do with that teacher, Rhonda?
We had a long talk, and I told her that if she didn't like it, that we could part ways at the end of the spring and she could find somewhere else to teach. So they did stand up for the flag every day.
All right, you go. That's excellent. Well, I need you to do that with AOC when you go up to Congress. So we were talking with Rhonda Woodward, and I was saying you're going to have to go up to the swamp and deal with AOC, and then of course the Chinese cut my internet off. So we're back talking with Rhonda Woodward, congressional candidate for CD2. This always happens when I start talking about liberals, John and Rhonda.
I know.
But Rhonda, that's the thing. You're going to have to go up there, and AOC is just out of control. Her and Omar is the other one, that the squad nightmare people.
It's unbelievable to me that they still have a position in Congress. I don't get it. I really don't.
So before we were rudely cut off,
those damn Chinese.
I was at Rhonda. I wanted to know our district, Congressional District 2, which is one of the largest, by the way, congressional districts east of the Mississippi, if not the largest in area. But it's an R+11 district, so it's a solid Republican district. And our current representative, Neil Dunn, is rated as a compromise conservative, and the only group that he really belongs to up there is called the Republican Study Group, which is kind of a moderate kind of organization. So he's not a member of the Freedom Caucus or any of the more what I call constitutionally oriented representatives. Where do you see yourself fitting in that hierarchy?
So I'm a constitutional conservative Christian Republican. I would fall in with the Freedom Caucus with folks like Matt Gaetz, Thomas Massey, Marjorie Taylor Greene. I believe in voting for smaller government and keeping us back to what the Founding Fathers meant to guide us with the Constitution.
Well, and I wanted to ask you too, let's talk some hot issues, Ukraine, and how many billions are we going to keep giving them? I mean, granted, I want them to win, but I don't think when do we cut off the bank account? I feel like we're a sugar daddy to Ukraine.
Right. Well, sadly, I do too. I'm like-minded that I do want them to win, but we have already given more than our share. It's more than time for the EU to stand up and contribute. Right now, we're not just paying for the defense over there. We're paying for their teachers' pensions and things like that when we can't pave our potholes and pay our teacher pensions, and they're threatening our Social Security. I feel like we're in a sinking ship and we're throwing the life rafts out to these other countries that are coming by on their yacht. We can't afford to do that. We have to if we don't take care of America and handle our business and our borders, we're not going to have anything left to give to someone else. It's kind of like when those oxygen masks fall out of the plane. You're supposed to put it on yourself first and then help your neighbor. We're without oxygen right now. We have to have that.
Well, I don't think that so many people are realizing that. And where do you stand on Israel? Because I just, when all of those Hamas came over and killed babies and civilians and, non-combatants, I have a problem with that. And I feel like Biden does not have Netanyahu's back, which, granted, he's not perfect, but shouldn't we be standing up for terrorism? And we still have Americans that are, the Hamas have as, that they've kidnapped over there. And it's been forever that they've had in a day. I
am pro-Israel, pro-United States, and they are a strong ally for us over there in the Middle East. And I'm very fed up with Biden not only funding Hamas terrorism, funding Iran, crippling our oil industry, feeding theirs. We're spending money on both sides of the war just because he can't make a decision, or his decision is to just, let it implode and cost America all the money that he can possibly cost us. He's given money to both sides, and it's ridiculous. We're now pumping more aid over to Gaza than we did prior to the war. They keep yelling ceasefire, but they're still shooting at Israel, and they still have American hostages and Israeli hostages. I believe that Israel would have already finished this if other people had not interfered and just gotten the business and started trying to stymie it, slow it down. And it's all just to feed the propaganda mill. You can't make everyone happy. Somebody has to have a backbone and say enough. And I think we better be back in Israel, or it's going to really be bad in the long run.
It's one thing that we constantly harp on here, because Veronica and I are both former military, and, the purpose of war is to break things and kill people. And until you defeat the enemy's resolve, you're never going to win. And that's the problem. We try to play both sides. The Ukraine has been, we're afraid we're going to escalate stuff. We don't want to send stuff over there to win the war. So we want enough to stalemate stuff. And then we turn around and we're buying oil, letting Putin sell oil on the world market to fund the Russians to fight the Ukraine with our weapons that we're giving them our money. And it's just, it's like insanity, It really is.
It is. And the only thing that makes sense out of all of it is that maybe that's the plan. Maybe they're trying to bankrupt America. This crazy Democratic deep state that's up there. How could you possibly just be that dumb? It has to be done on purpose. I just can't imagine that we're feeding both sides of a war in Ukraine, pumping money over there like we're printing it on copy paper in my office, and doing the same thing over in Israel, and not giving Ukraine what they need to win. We're just like, it's like, you're letting them just die slowly. Either give them what they need to knock it out and be done with it, hold the other countries over there that are on their borders accountable, or stop.
The Secretary of State said, oh, now they can become NATO, yet that was the red line that Russia said we couldn't cross. So what are your thoughts on that? Because I honestly think if Trump was as our president now, we wouldn't be dealing with any of these shenanigans from any of these people. But your thoughts on Ukraine joining NATO?
I think it's a day late and a dollar short. They should have done that before all this hit the fan. As it is right now, I would say no. They need to stay the course. This needs to get sorted out and move forward. It's too late.
Well, I like that answer. And then my next question is, Iran has been a problem child. You know, they've lobbed all this stuff at us, and now finally, maybe they're finally a little scared of us. But how would you handle Iran? John's laughing. I see starters, him over there.
I mean, for starters, put the sanctions back on there. Trump was very effective. He put in the Abraham Accord and got more peace over there than any other president, but he hasn't won a Nobel Peace Prize, which I think is ridiculous. Iran needs to be sanctioned. We need to clamp down on their oil production, and we need to go in there and visit their nuclear production and put that on a hold, because they're just going crazy and we're giving them the money to do it. And we don't have any eyes over there legitimately to see what's going on.
The other country I want to ask about is Taiwan, you know, because my husband and I, we were stationed in Okinawa in Japan, and you've got North Korea and you've got China. It's kind of tip of the sword. That's why we have our American troops over there to maintain presence. What are your thoughts on Taiwan? Because China's just kind of salivating, and I think with this weak president, you know, they could pounce any day. Taiwan right now is recovering from that earthquake, but what a great time to pounce.
Yes, I think we have to ally with them and protect them. We cannot allow China to start extending their hold on anything, and especially since Taiwan, 92% of electrical chips, computer chips, and chips for vehicles and everything else are made in Taiwan. So we need to start back manufacturing here in the U.S. This is ridiculous. We've been talking about how they have all the chips over there and we don't have any. Why aren't we making any? Same thing with pharmaceuticals and everything else. We have to start producing things here in the United States and help us to be strong and independent again. And then we can pass the oxygen mask and start helping people. But right now we're bleeding out, and it's got to stop.
And then John and I are super supporters of Trump. We feel like this election in November, it's monumental. If we don't win in November, I don't know if we're ever getting our country back again, Rhonda. So I wanted you to talk about why you support Donald Trump and what this election means to you for the presidential race.
Well, aside from all the rhetoric and all the craziness, the proof is in, look at the facts. Look at what he's done. In one administration, he did things that I thought should have been done for many years, like putting tariffs back on China. He's the only one that had the backbone to do that. He started turning the trade around. He created 499,000 new manufacturing jobs, where the April job report just came out, and Biden is up from -6 to 0 in manufacturing. How sad is that? Trump was faced with many crises. He had the backbone to deal with it. He knew how to handle Korea. He knew how to handle Putin, and he knew how to handle the Middle East. He's got the backbone. He's got the proven track record. He brought inflation down. He brought interest rates down, and people thrived under his administration. The administration we have now has done more damage in these few years than it's going to take 10 years at least to repair with the right administration. And I'm like you, if we don't get Trump back in office and we don't have patriots up there and fighters that will back him up and move the ball, we are sunk. And I'm sick of Congress, even under Trump, when he did have a majority in the House and Senate, they bicker among each other. It's got to stop. We have to work for our country, for our constituents, and for our people, and move the ball and make legislation that worked. I'm tired of omnibus bills that put all this pork in there and don't make any sense, that they launch them, 2 days before the vote, that are 6,000 pages of nonsense that nobody even reads. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of the politics. I'm sick of the backdoor, money handling, whatever they're doing. I don't need their money. I can be bought. And I think we need more people like that up there to back Trump. And Trump's going to win. He's got to.
So Rhonda, we're currently running $3 trillion a year budget deficits under Biden. And, they're just giving away money left and right. As you mentioned, they're like printing it like it's on a copy machine.
Right.
And,
I mean, I was an elementary math teacher, but I get that's a big number.
So obviously something has to give at some point. Either you raise taxes, and they're already running about 20% of the economy, 20 to 22% of the economy is being sucked out by the federal government in taxes. You have the interest rate problem where the interest is going to be bigger than the regular budget. We're going to be spending more money on interest than anything else, as you had earlier mentioned. Where do you cut this money from? What is it? What are the programs that need to be eliminated to fix this budget problem?
Well, I think we have to cut that layer of fat in D.C. and pull back the reins. So I would start with things like Department of Education. They employ 0 teachers, and they spend like $3 million a year. I think. What are they doing? Or 300? All they do is impose a bunch of rhetoric, a bunch of rules, and things that don't help at all. We don't need that kind of oversight. And there is big expansions in places like DOJ and other departments that could be brought back in. The place we need to spend money is defense, especially now. And we're not spending enough money there. So I would definitely fight for more money there. But we have to have manufacturing here. We have to continue to feed in to the income base. I mean, right now, the interest rates are going so high. Biden just announced, I think, that he's going to take back the tax cuts that Trump had for the wealthier layers. That's just stemming any growth because they don't want to go to big business owners and the people that do have money and invest and start building when they don't know what the tax structure is going to be and don't have that coming back to them. So we have to build jobs here.
And so many people don't realize that in 2025 the Trump tax cuts expire, and then
right.
and we're there. The middle class is going to see a massive increase in taxes in just 1 year if something doesn't get done by the Congress.
And I tell you, it's crippling. And when you start crippling small businesses, which I know because running this small business, my cost of goods has increased in the last 5 years probably 125%.
Oh, my goodness.
My labor cost has doubled. I can't start an employee, even in this area, for less than $20 an hour and keep them. And then insurance rates are bananas. So if you can't give any breaks to people who are trying to give people jobs, and it just keeps costing more money until you put them out, especially now with illegal labor available, because there's a lot of people that'll do that. I can't do that and be insured and do the things I'm supposed to do. But they will have those pickup truck people that'll come out and work and not have any of the insurance and zero almost labor compared to what anybody else that's legit has. And it just starts shutting down businesses. And you're going to see that all over the U.S. with that many illegal immigrants in because they have to do something for a living. They can't just live off our taxes.
Well, you already see that in the housing industry. I think if you go to a housing development site where they're building and try talking to the people actually doing the work, none of them speak English.
100%.
I mean, it's astonishing.
100%.
So
it really is.
So Rhonda, I
want to bid against them.
I want to get a bunch of issues in, so I'm going to turn it into a rapid fire round because we've got a lot to hit here. John and I are huge pro-lifers, and the Dems are using women's health as their big issue. That's like their number one other platform that they're pushing. Why you have to vote for Biden? So talk about your stance on being a pro-lifer.
I am pro-life all the way. That's my belief. It always has been, always will be, and I'll stand up for that and stand behind it. I believe that it was correct for the Supreme Court to bring that back to the states. That's how it was always meant to be in the Constitution, and that the states should decide.
Okay. Guns and red flag laws.
I am all about constitutional carry. Open carry would work fine with me. Red flag laws in my book.
John liked that.
That's oh, good. I got one fan. Yay.
I'm an open carry fan.
Yeah, I mean, that's really how it's laid out in the Constitution. And red flag laws are ineffective. They take away your constitutional rights. I have two, a niece and a nephew in the Coast Guard that are under the age that they would be allowed to carry a gun here in Florida because of the red flag law, but they carry and are trained in the military. I think that's ridiculous. I think that you have a right to defend yourself, and there's a reason why. Look at Chicago. No guns allowed there. You can't even stop at a red light without being carjacked or shot. I'm not going there if I can't carry my gun. When I was a kid, I grew up here. I went to Mosley High School. There were shotguns hanging in the back windshields of trucks because those boys went hunting before they went to school. And it wasn't a thing. Nobody cared. The guns don't kill people. Stupid kills people.
Very
Evil
true.
kills people.
On your support for military and veterans, because we've got, I think, over 20 military bases around the state. So it's a huge economic driver for our state.
So not only is that our economic blood lifeline, but I am very patriotic. My husband's retired Air Force. My son-in-law is an officer in the Air Force. My father was Army. My grandfather was Army Air Corps. I'm all about it. I believe that those are the biggest sacrifices. I've seen it from my daughter's side where she had two kids under 2 living in a foreign country and traveling and being there while her husband was a combat commander and being flown out and being gone 6 months at a time and handling it. They're brave men and women, and we support and respect them. And I will fight for them and fight to keep our bases thriving here, because I go to Tyndall every couple of weeks, and it's growing so fast after the storm, and I am so glad that it's thriving.
Right, and then we do have like 1.5 million retirees in the state of Florida too, Rhonda, that have decided to come to Florida because you don't have to pay state income tax. So,
well, plus the weather's nice, and with all the bases around, it is easy to access our healthcare systems here for retired military and military people. And I really enjoy and appreciate that. I can go out there to the pharmacy and pick up my medication, and it's very nice to have that, and we need to keep it here. I have toured the Navy base and have seen their experimental units and the diving training. And there's also my niece was sworn in Coast Guard station right there. So we are surrounded by it, and it makes me happy to see it. I respect them. I love to see them come in as, young trainees, and then they come back here to retire. So it just keeps that flow going, and it's awesome.
And then why should folks choose you to represent us in Congress? Let's take it full circle.
Because I will fight for you. I'm one of you. I've lived here for the last 48 years. I grew up as a kid here. I raised my kids here. I got my education at Florida State University. I served my community as a teacher and as a school principal. I care about the people that don't have a voice, and I feel like we need a voice. I say, look at my opponent's voting record. That should be enough. If that doesn't tell you that we are done with that, I mean, that is literally why I got in the race. I don't need recognition. I don't desire it. I don't need a paycheck. I need somebody to make a change. so that my grandkids can grow up here and still have what we have now or what we used to have before it's too late.
And I know people can follow you on rhonda4fl.com. You're also on Instagram as well, rhonda4fl.com, and you're on X. And did we miss anything, Rhonda? This is so exciting.
I don't, I can talk forever, and I've gotten off on some tirades there. I don't know if the communists are kicking us off because of you and I, but
they are.
I think we covered a lot of bases, and if there's anything else anybody wants to ask me, just drop me a line on one of those platforms, and I'll answer you.
Well,
I hope that you elect me because I will fight for you.
Well, it's been a pleasure having you on here. We've been talking with Rhonda Woodward. She's a congressional candidate for CD2, and she wants to go to D.C. to represent us. And we'll be right back on Veronica Live.